Yes, yes, yes. Another Wednesday, another episode of the Fat Cats Rugby podcast. The border guy is aware that we are shooting, so you'll hear him in the background more often than usual.
We need to invite that border guy to just come and have a conversation with us. Maybe that's the problem.
Conspiracy theories about rugby and what?
Here is weights when we're about to start, then he's going to ride around from top to bottom, always, and make sure his border is heard in the podcast.
We'll have to give him one of those reflector jackets, Fat Cats reflector jackets. Part 2 of a sponsorship podcast. My name is Edwin. Due to public demand, word has been cut that I'm the biggest fat cat. So I'm here to show the whole world that Bruno and Ruben are bigger than me. I'm joined here by Ruben, the usual suspect, the usual fat cat with me, and special guest here, sponsor, the man with money, the guy who brings all the beer, as you can see. He has done the thing. JP, Ssemakula, how are you?
I'm all right.
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
We were discussing before, this is your first time on the podcast.
Correct. And I want to put it on record that I don't identify as a fat cat. But I'm happy to be here.
We're going to put out the terms of engagement for membership, so don't worry. Next year will be a new year.
We actually had people on YouTube asking us about creating a WhatsApp group for Fat Cats fans. I don't know what we are going to do about that.
We'll come up with some terms, either a fat cat or a skinny cat, but you'll have to be on the podcast. JP,
all right.
We hear things about you. People see you at press conferences. You don't know who you are. Just tell our viewers who you are.
Okay. My full name is John Paul Ssemakula.
Yeah.
I am the connections manager at Now Breweries. That means I'm in charge of media, events and sponsorships, and that's why I'm here to discuss the rugby sponsorship in particular. I've been with Now Breweries for 1 year now, and I would of course want to hear from you if there's been any changes, any improvements in how things are done. But happy to be a part of this whole journey and adventure, of course.
Wonderful. Good to hear from you, and glad you can join us. Say hello to the guys at Nile. We appreciate the goodies. Now,
I think before we start, JP is one of those guys. Like last I had seen him, he was playing rugby. I think with Cobs at the time. Yeah. Then all of a sudden he disappeared for a bit. Then he comes back this time as a Nile special guy. So it was Nile Breweries guy. It was very, very interesting. He's a man I think that has been in different sectors of the game as well, contributing in different sectors, from the player part to now being a stakeholder as a sponsor. So that's very interesting. We appreciate his contribution to the game.
Yeah. I mean, you never leave the game, or at least the game never leaves you, right?
Don't you ever be there and you just be like, man, I feel like I want to play. That urge, like that always wants to pull you back on the pitch. And you remember how hard the tackle hurts, and you're like, it's nice being a fan. Then you order for another nail special.
Or the bruises after when you shower.
Those grass bands.
The grass bands.
Those grass bands, and then Sunday.
Yeah.
Sunday was the worst day, man. You're like a corpse, literally. You're just there, like in pain. You're like, now, what happened behind my ear? What happened here? You're like, anyway, rugby.
For me, the thing about rugby is that usually when I'm just walking, going to the office or going somewhere, all of a sudden you look up and then you're like, kick off. You're like, oh, get ready to the ball. So
that's real PTSD now.
That's trauma, my guy.
You get the ball and then you
might need to see someone about that.
So, JP, it's good Ruben brings that, the Cobs and whatever. Wanted to know, many people don't know you played rugby, your history. Tell us. We hear about the famous 2007 class of Namilyango, but many people don't know. You guys swept the league. You were unstoppable, but they don't know you're part of the team. Tell them.
All right. Well, I started playing rugby at the famous and great college of Namilyango.
Okay.
I did 6 years there. And by the time we were done with the school league, or at least school rugby, we had really reached the top of everything. We had taken everything there was to win. The team went on to play great rugby. Kamanyiri was on that team. Walakira was on that team. Even Chimono played on that team as a youngster. I think that was his first year on the school team.
Yeah.
We had Meshu, Musumba Isaac, Tom, Ogwa Romano,
Yeah, Romano.
among other guys. It was great. All the Asavas, all those guys who came after us and played good rugby, played with us at that time. But of course, I cannot attribute it to only that year because we also came from great men. At least we followed in the footsteps of great men. So all the way from the Anguyos, and a couple of other guys, Barasa, etc. So we're exposed to that space. Edmund Tumusime, I was lucky to see him from school rugby all the way through to club rugby. So after school rugby in Essex back, went on to play for Cobs. We won Uganda Cup. I scored the winning try in that final.
Okay.
Yeah, it was great. I also went on to play Safari Sevens. That was the first time I was playing for the national team Sevens. Okay. So it's been a great journey. And after the Cobs success, I went on to get a sports scholarship at Makerere, and I played for Impis. And that team also went on to win the Sevens League in my final year with Ogwa Romano and a couple other Kenyans. We had George Yasin, we had Juma. I don't know if you remember that number.
Hilary
9.
Juma, yes, I remember.
Yeah, very brilliant mind. We had Marlon, crazy guy at the wing. So we had a formidable force, and I cannot say that I regret my time at Makerere. Obote, all those guys played very good rugby with my man, Ogwa Romano, and after that, we went back to our respective clubs. Had a very short stint after that with Cobs, and retirement beckoned, shoulder injuries and all of that stuff, but also life. So some say I tested Friday night and I couldn't go back. So.
Friday night with money.
Yeah, Friday night with money.
That bangs different.
Yeah, so that's my journey in rugby. But like you said, I never left the game. Even at Moringa, which was my first place of employment, I was still part of the brands that were a part of the game. And it's been that journey that has led me here. So, yeah.
That's great.
Wow. I mean, also me, I'm retired. But it shows you that those who have played.
I think one thing that I'm seeing in all this is that do you think that Uganda rugby talent leaves the game a bit too early?
It does. It does.
How can we stop that? Yes, I know we eventually go on to contribute in different ways. I mean, we have a podcast. I personally do commentary. He's with Nile Special. He was with Moringa. But still, you need your best talent also to have some extra time on the field. I don't know what we can do to mitigate that because we have lost a lot of people. I mean, JP is here in a different role. We've lost the likes of Felix Rubega. We have lost Lawrence Wakabi, Kabazi, Barasa. Man, it's a whole list. You can make literally like about 5 teams of guys that would have literally created depth for the game. So I don't know. I really don't know how we are, as a system or as a game, we are hoping to mitigate this or to find a solution for this.
It's called life. Life happens. So at that point of finishing school and getting to the employment world and whatever, you start to see that rugby will no longer be a priority.
So what you're actually saying is it's employment which equals to money. So that means we have to find a way to get more money into the game. The reason why we are here.
That's why JP is here. JP has to discuss these things.
Yes.
There's a famous TV journalist. You see him all the time on Twitter. He asked a question and it made him popular. So I want to also exercise my right to also ask that question. Why the sudden increase of funding to rugby? 9.8 billion. Why 9.8?
All right. Well, first of all, that 9.8 is it cuts across a couple of years. It's not just a 1-year contract. So that longevity in planning is why we sunk in that money. So we are rest assured, the union is rest assured that the kitty is there to at least have some long-term planning done for the game. So we're not just going to pull out after a 1-year, 2-year contract. We are here for the long term. So that's why we put in that money to reassure the union and, of course, the stakeholders that us as Nile, who, of course, are the number one fan of Uganda rugby, are here and we're walking the talk. So hence sinking in that money. It helps to plan better. It helps to strategize better and just make sure that the output at the end of those 4 years is something that has, measurable substance and is seen. That these are the goals that we are set out to do and we are here and we are achieving them as we go along. And then, of course, we hope that this is even longer term than the 3-4 odd years that we've put in.
I mean, Ruben, this announcement of the sponsorship, the increase of money, came at a point when I think our boys were at the peak. the Sevens had just snatched Kitty in terms of the Africa Sevens Cup at Chadondo. That 2-day fiesta fair. And I mean, Nile comes and secures the relationship, saying for 4 years. How do we go about that as fans and players? Excitement.
Yeah, definitely. It's always good to have partners who come into the game, especially those that come into the game long term. Because, like you said, it helps us plan long term. See, when you have short term plans, you're always looking over your shoulder, like, okay, what are we going to do next? There's always that bit of panic mode when you're in the short term. But once you have an opportunity to plan long term, a partner who is invested long term to try and see that, okay, now our teams are sorted. Some of the things that we have normally been worrying about are being sorted. It helps you at least take the game to a different level. I mean, we have seen the way the boys have been performing, especially the Sevens, and we are hoping that that can be able to also move on to the 15 side, and they can also be able to be nurtured and to be grown. And also, from creating fans' experiences, it's also not that one of the things I think I've appreciated is it's not only about the people on the pitch, that rugby should be sold as an experience, as a lifestyle, not just as a game. And that's how we're going to get a lot more people in. And we have seen they have a lot of activations when there are games, whether it is internationals and Uganda is playing somewhere else, or whether it is here now. Uganda Cup is coming. I'm eager to see what's going to happen. But it's just to give that avenue where everyone is being is actively evolved. The fans have their experience. The players are being catered for, and maybe the union is also getting funding to help it do the various things that we expect it to do. I mean, it's great. If we can have so many people like Niall Special come into the game, I mean, it would be very amazing.
Yeah, the sponsorship is quite robust. It covers very many things. You have the Rugby Premier League, you have the Rugby Africa Sevens. They are the home jersey sponsor of the Rugby 15s.
Yeah.
They have just recently finished sponsoring the National Sevens League, Women's Sevens. You have the National Sevens team as well, regional sevens, the local regional sevens. You have the Uganda Cup for both men and women. The recent one where we were snubbed, the URU Awards dinner. That is also,
by the way,
that is also part of the sponsorship package.
You see the guy we talked to about invites
next year.
We never got to see our invites. Maybe they got lost.
They got lost. We'll talk to him.
I mean, we had our attires.
Yeah. Then also, maybe lastly, they also cover the university league. So yeah, you can see it's quite
important aspect that has been neglected.
It's quite a robust sponsorship package that goes into Ugandan rugby. Now, I think we've all seen this moving around. There is the Cranes Cabo initiative. There is the aspect of, remember, I think you saw a tweet of Dennis Onyango saying that I'm coming back, and all of a sudden the tweet TL went haywire. Like, why is this old guy coming back to play? Are we going for a World Cup or something? But it was an initiative by Nile Special, where they'll give 50 shillings off a bottle of Nile to initiate a kitty of sorts for funding the preparations for the World Cup, next World Cup, that will be for football, held later on, obviously. We had our boys participate in the Sevens Rugby World Cup in South Africa. We missed out, not narrowly, but we missed out on the World Cup coming up next year. What do you think? We need something like this for rugby, considering where we have seen how far the team can go. I think money is the only issue that is stopping us.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that we can talk about passion, we can talk about everything, but money is that one thing that will always get things going. But I think if you're to look at it from, let's say, from 2002 and how things have been moving up to this point, that there were, from a point where there were literally no sponsors up to a point where there are some sponsorship as well, and then up to this point, you can say at least there's been improvement. So definitely looking forward to the future. I am optimistic that, you know what, maybe in the future we can also have our own, not even one cabo, where we have 2 or 3 things happening that are going to be able to sort out player issues. Maybe my biggest problem when it comes to sport is how how is medical handled? And of course, definitely, we are seeing so much money coming into the game. Hopefully, we shall have things that are also particularly focused on that. So it's just great to see that at least there are steps in the right direction. That from a time when there was actually no sponsorship and just basing on handouts as and when they came, to sponsors who are now thinking a bit long term, to now sponsors who will probably create such initiatives. And it's just great to see Nile Special not only focus on one sport, but all around. They are really just positioning themselves as a brand that is synonymous with sport in Uganda.
So, JP, my question here is, are you going to diversify the cupboard? Are you going to send it to the rugby aid as well?
Yeah. Well, my firm belief is that it's not a copy and paste situation, right?
Yeah.
Every sport has its own needs and its own avenues, and this cabo concept is not new. It's something that we do culturally as a people, religiously or elsewhere, right? And even in rugby, currently, I think some of the things are sorted out in a cabo format. The WhatsApp group and of the fans of the what, they collect money together.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, sometimes there's people like Eddie Shiwanuka go around collecting money from the fans to help the sport. So I think for me, it's a challenge to the people itself. Rugby is a community sport. It's one of those ones that has been, developed or has come, to its fruition today because of the efforts of a group of people, of the community that is the rugby, both players and fans, old players alike, but also fans that have been in the mix for some time. So I think we can start the cabo. Personally, I would like to see how that plays out, to see what exactly the national team needs to win. But it's also a challenge, I think, to the national team itself and the union to see how they devise a strategy to make sure that we get to the World Cup. And with that, we shall at least see a plan in place, and then we'll see how we can support it. Part of the problem that I saw when the boys went to Marseille was a lack of preparation. They should have had some test games, and we have an opportunity to partner with people in Kenya, in TZ, in Rwanda. That's just the near places, but also down south where we have our HQs. We can maybe initiate some sort of discussions and see how we can tap into the player base that's out there and form some night test games, and some franchise rugby comes into play. So let's see what the next year has to offer. But yes, I put it to the players and, of course, the union to see what exactly is required and how the fans, or at least the public and the sponsors, can take part.
Wow, wonderful. I think we hear that and loud and clear. Brings back that painful memory of lack of preparation. But perhaps we have some further discussions that will enlighten us on how we can go ahead and develop the game that we love. Preparation is quite key. Preparation has got the sevens team very far.
Yeah.
And once teams are prepared and organized, I think you notice that things go as far as you can go. Maybe limited by resources and then maybe just outperformed by another team. You bring in the union in aspects of organization, the cabo aspect, and it brings something in my head, and I'm like, you want the union to give value addition to the sport. That is, organize tournaments, organize fixtures, prepare as well. But now I throw it back to you as a sponsor. What value addition, apart from the money, which we are deeply grateful for, what else in terms of value addition do you give this sport? Because many people ask, they're like, we just see Nile Special t-shirts, we put on the t-shirts, but what value addition, what do you do in the background that can be attributed to the growth of the game?
Okay. I mean, resources go a long way. So the money is a big one. It helps in the preparations and it helps in the day-to-day activities of the union, but also of the players. But at the end of the day, the things that we bring on board, especially with our partners, event organizers, etc., to take our Mbeda, we bring some juice and flavor to the events, to rugby as we know it. I think you can attest to the Chadondo Rugby Africa Sevens, that 2-day weekend. It was really flair. We had some flavor in there, and it was flavor made of Nile Special, made of Uganda. Yeah. And of course, that's our forte. So the eventing, the style that we brought, the experience that we give you, like he said, off the pitch is one of them. And that's the value that we actually literally bring. The promos that come with the beer, the conditions under which you find your beer, the availability of the product, the entertainment after the games, even just during. There is that energy that you feel from the fans. Sometimes those fans are actually pushed by us or fueled by us. Eddie Chiwanoka is our main man, and he brings it. He always brings it. So that's stuff that we push in the background. And I think that's really the value that you see so far. And there will be so much more. On the TL, I think you see when we start to speak or when rugby is being spoken about, I think Twitter goes crazy. Everyone speaks about the game. It has overtaken football in terms of conversations, and football is the most popular sport in the country. So you can imagine. That also comes up with the use of influencers, of partners and friends of the brand that also then bring their voice together and talk about rugby. And then you see it being spoken about in corridors or spaces that you didn't even know existed. We have ministers, taking part in discussions, in trips, and also appreciative of the fact that a big brand like this one can't touch rugby. So other sponsors also start to come. They say, okay, if Now Special is doing it, let's also jump on. Let's see what's up, because there's organization that comes with that. There's strength in numbers, and once you have a strong brand like Now Special, you have other strong brands coming through. So that's, I think, indirect, but it's something that is attributed to having a partner like Now Special.
Yeah, Ruben, we saw Total Energies Uganda jumped on board.
Yeah, kudos to those guys.
Sevens, and we get to watch Azawi for 20k as opposed to their 100k. Yeah, so the value addition to Ugandan rugby is something that has always been a question that we always ask ourselves, that we have a sponsor. Apart from putting in money, what else do we benefit as a fraternity? Questions of do you have scholarships? Do you push your brand even to the point of that you even try to say that, look, despite the fact that you're playing rugby and we enjoy seeing you on the pitch, we need you to also push yourself professionally, because rugby is not the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. When you look at it, there are so many different aspects in which this can be approached. And like you said, I think the two things that really stood out for me were the fact that you need to give people a whole lot of experience. And truth be told, we are still at a stage where we have fans that come and they barely understand what the game is about. But you're giving them entertainment through, like you said, Azawi, Winnie Nwaji, and sort of the people that come around. Let them enjoy the entertainment. Let them enjoy the Africa Sevens that were here. You and I really enjoyed those 2 days of rugby, regardless of what weather was there.
Yeah,
I think that has been my best tournament thus far. Not only from a rugby perspective, but just the whole experience was really good. And then also the fact that a brand can trust the sport to be able to invest in it speaks volumes to other corporate brands that might be looking and observing. So it's a very important thing that they are really doing. And there's nothing that pushes a sport or a product more than conversations and visibility. Visibility through media, visibility through the conversations through influencers, through the fans. And when fans have a good time, when the influencers have a good time, when the media is trying to be part of it, it's something that is very good. And like you said, it's just something that is all around a good step, like a step in the right direction, I believe.
Yeah.
But I think before we even go any further, speaking about value addition, we'd like to appreciate our followers, our viewers that have been reaching out about Fred and Winnie BNB. For those that are not aware, we are at the Fred and Winnie BNB where we're enjoying our Nile special, and later on we'll be enjoying a cup of tea because of the weather as it is. The Fred and Winnie BNB is located in Kisasi. For those that don't know, it has 10 self-contained private bedrooms consisting of 2 deluxe doubles, 3 standard doubles, 1 deluxe twin, and 2 standard twin bedrooms. A fully equipped kitchen is available, power backup system, Wi-Fi, laundry services, a chef to cater to your every meal, a sumptuous buffet breakfast with a choice of selected tropical fruits and juice. Pick up and drop off to and from Entebbe International Airport, as well as local transportation for getting around or for up-country trips can be arranged if booked in advance. For bookings, call 0778 933 559. And with the festive season coming up, there are so many offers. Just let them know that the Fat Cat sent you. for amazing offers. So yeah, Edwin, as you were saying,
DM for
Value
pricing.
for money.
DM for pricing.
DM for prices. Yes.
we have special prices, so people can just get in touch with us so that they can be able to get the pricing. Pricing, of course, will always vary with how long you're staying. So we'd like to give you tailored offers just for you. That is why there are no uniform prices for each person.
Yeah, value for money. When you have aspects of value for money, the key thing comes down to accountability. Who is accountable for money received, money got? Organizers have to usually account. Players have to account. I mean, you can't be given 9.8 billion maybe in different tranches and you're not winning.
Man.
Yeah, and then also management has to account. I mean, you're given money, you have to find ways of having warm-up tournaments, preparation games to go ahead. And I think that has been a very big problem with Ugandan rugby. Aspect of accountability. How accountable are the stakeholders? That is the management union, the players themselves, and even sometimes as fans, we tend to go off the road a little bit and divert the attention from the game to negative aspects, and it comes down to aspects of maybe bad mouthing in the press, aspects like that. So as a sponsor, going ahead with your giving of money, money has conditions. Money is never free. So people who are watching, just know that money is never free. So how do you how do you have your checks and balances to make sure your stakeholders are accountable? It's very important in this game.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I'd like to start first of all by saying that whatever bad press or negativity comes out of the demand for accountability does not help us. It does not help the sport. It's almost like you complaining out there on the streets that you eat beans every day.
Yeah.
And that is a shaming your dad. You understand? Yeah. I'd rather you first come home and say, but why do we eat beans every day?
Yeah.
Try to find and keep the communications lines open and discuss these things internally before you go out there and start blowing. I know that there is results when you do this, but the impact is also negative. It's not entirely positive.
Maybe just to slightly cut you off there, JP. I think the reason why some of these things are like this is because there is an impression or a feeling of lack of accountability. The fans feel like as if the union is not accounting to them. Now, like for instance, there's 9.8 billion on the table.
Yeah,
but they don't know how it's broken down on there, or how the portion has been spent.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And they maybe don't know the avenues on how to approach for right accountability or who to address it. Yeah. So they feel like they need to go ahead and go on social media, because one of the things we have had, and sometimes these things are not from just fans, they are from club officials. We have seen people who are saying that people never got their money for like last season, the amount of money given to the club. So I don't know how you have to address that, or how you think people should go about finding this accountability.
Yeah, so I think for me it's three-pronged, right? Like I said, the communication lines need to be, first of all, made aware of, let people know that these things exist.
Yeah.
Then two, they need to make sure that they are used. You understand? So for me, from the fans' perspective, the public and all that stuff, the avenues need to be made clear. Let them, talk about these things and get them addressed. Now, that's one side. That's the fans. When they speak out on Twitter, it's not entirely good for the game. It's not entirely good for us as a sponsor. It sheds a bad light. It almost makes it seem like guys have packed the money and run away.
Yeah.
Now, that's the feeling. So I don't blame them. But when it comes down to the union as well, I think for me, there's so many dynamics here. And the way the union manages itself needs to become a little more professional.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're not professional, because for us, we see the professional side of them, but you guys probably don't get a chance.
Perhaps on our end, we see...
on your end, you just see
savagery,
guys speaking.
You
see guys speaking on microphones and giving you words, and you're wondering, but surely, where is the PowerPoint, where is the Excel? They have these things.
Yeah.
So some of these things, of course, are not open to the public, but they're there. So I think for me, the union needs to approach some of these things not as it has approached, as has been approached previously, but as of the situation currently, listening to the people's views on how things are done. So for example, there's that issue of the stick. When you do not follow the rules, or you don't, the clubs don't abide by what has been set. These guidelines have been set to professionalize the sport, and therefore attract more sponsors, players, and all of that stuff. So it's a sustainability thing. However, you'll find that some of these clubs are still in that sense of, we need this money, we need to grow, we don't have any sponsors, we don't have anyone else, right? So when you approach it on a stick as opposed to carrot perspective, you find that the pushback is a lot tougher, especially in the beginning stages, because they have not yet adopted to understanding exactly why we're doing what we're doing. They have told us to put the Now Special logo on the jerseys, but we don't even have money for jerseys.
Yeah, we don't have money.
What's going on here? You understand?
Should they put the logo?
You remember what Isaac said last time? You give me the 10 million, then we talk later. No.
And then even that 10 million that has been promised, you're chopping it and you're giving me too mad.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So how about we start with, let's give you the 5 that you need.
Okay.
And then we keep adding based off how you do the things. You understand? There's ways of going about this. So you kind of have a carrot. For every single thing that you do and you do well, you get, an incentive. So that means that you are assured of a certain amount and then more. As you learn, as you grow, as you build, the club's sustainability is one thing. And that's something else that is the third aspect. So I've talked about the funds, I've talked about the union and how they can approach this. But I think also the clubs need to look at it in such a way that it is their mandate, in a way, to build their brands, to grow themselves, to not just keep quarreling and crying about the union and saying, you know what, guys, for us, as us, we actually have pedigree, we have our people, let's get together and do this thing. Maybe you even have a sponsor in mind. It doesn't have to be a big sponsor. It could be a dry cleaning company. It could be the Airbnb upon which we sit. These people will listen to you only if you organize and you're showing value. It's a vehicle. It's almost like you decide to create your brand as a platform for whatever else you're trying to move. If it's always pads, push them. If it's Nivea lotion, push them. You understand? There's so many ways in which you can do these things. Unilever is always willing to get guys, with their products out there. There are many companies out there that are willing to see people who are adding value. So form yourself into some formidable force, and then start from there. The union will help. The union has put the structures together with the help of the sponsor, but that doesn't mean that that's the end. Start from within what you have and grow. So let's not push blame, towards different people, or say, you know what, it's the union. Let's also look within ourselves and see, as clubs. And I speak as a patron of a particular club. We also have our own issues. We've been at the top, and now we're trying to handle our own internal situations. Now, I will not say that again we are the best at approaching these things, but there's people like Pirates. They've attracted a sponsor like Stanbic. I don't think the Pirates players and the community is looking at, say, Saba government at Tuyambi. They're actually trying to get their things together. They even had a dinner over the weekend. It's one of the few clubs that I know. Look at the Hippos. They have managed to get to where they are right now because of their own efforts. Not because, again, the union has failed to come through, not because the sponsor money hasn't trickled down. They have actually stood up and made sure that they expose themselves and grow the way they need to grow. So I think once you've done all these things, you'll find that everyone will be accountable. Finally, because the accountability does not stop at the union. It also starts with us. So I think we can then grow together as a sport.
Oh, wonderful. When you talk about, you mentioned very many sponsors. You said there are very many people who can come on board, but they need you to meet those KPIs. I call them the ADRAF KPIs because it's the one who makes the most noise about them. We noticed there was, after a complaint by Rujumba, the money was increased, I think, from 10 to 20. And I think, I don't know, maybe if it will be 10 received and then 10 as a bonus.
Maybe
if you tick, if you tick all those. Do you have any information about that? There was a change. You I think announced.
Yes.
After a hullabaloo of noise about the 10 million, and they said 10 would be given prior, and then maybe 10 would be given after. So it was a package of 20 million. Yeah.
So I'm not I do not know much. I cannot speak to it like that because I would like to let the union run its thing.
Okay.
However, what I would like to say is that first of all, that money was added not because of arm twisting.
Yeah.
It was because there was communication.
Yeah.
That communication came in negatively, of course, in the
Yeah.
beginning, and it caused some sort of bad scare, pure nightmare type situation.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that that's the only way to approach it.
Yeah.
A guy like Philip
Adraf. Yes.
and Rujumba,
Yes.
they have my number personally.
Yeah.
They can actually approach me over beer and we sit down and talk about these things.
Yeah.
That's a very unique situation
Yeah.
you find yourselves in as a sport.
Yeah.
For you to be able to actually have a direct access to the sponsor.
Yeah.
And that you can actually air you out. And I have first-hand experience in terms of what lacking is or what needs they are for a player.
For a player,
So
yes.
I think for me, they should have approached it first like that.
Yeah.
Let's speak to JP. We know JP. As opposed to saying we are just attacking.
Full frontal attack.
Full frontal. So you see, after that discussion happened, the union understood the needs, spoke to us directly. We understood the needs, provided the solution. It was a brainstorm.
Yeah.
So that's how things should work in the future. Let's meet, let's talk, let's get these things out of the way, and then move on to bigger, better things. Because again, even after that money was presented, is it really the final solution that we're looking for? It's just
still need more money.
Yeah, and the situation with money is very crazy. Once you need a certain amount, you're going to cry that we don't have money.
Yeah.
When the money comes, you're going to cry that it's very little.
Yeah.
And even after all of that, you're still not going to go anywhere if you're not focused on what you want to achieve. Yeah. So even if we throw as much money as there is to throw, if we do not sit down and actually look at a vision that we want to achieve, we are going to waste that money. So I think the problem is deeper than we think, and we just need to work together to kind of solve
nowadays
it.
there was not 20 million. Don't you think we should go
and
back to
guys
the
play.
million?
the transport the allowance of transport will increase.
But I mean, that's not to say that I don't understand that these clubs are actually in need of this money.
Money, yes.
They do need this money. They struggle to keep these, and they're the product. Without them, we don't have leagues, we don't really have anything going on. And if they actually decided to start their own situation, then we are at a loss as well.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we need to work together. It's a together thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the discussions or the conversations we had in our previous podcast that was about sponsorship was we asked what clubs can do to offer value for sponsors, or at least to catch the eye of a sponsor. So sitting in the chair of a sponsor and maybe just trying to educate clubs and their management, what ideally do sponsors be looking for when they are looking at, say, let's start with clubs, even we go ahead to a union. In your perspective, what do you think sponsors be looking for?
I'll speak for my own personal experience in terms of what I look for. I'm very keen to see clubs get professional. And by professional, I mean record keeping, reporting. Yeah, give me a report at the end of the season about how your league was, about the things that you saw, your SWOT analysis of the whole situation, the opportunities that you see are available. Because sometimes we might not see certain things. For example, opportunities for branding. I might not see everything. But a club might say, you know what, on my grounds, I actually have a Kabbalah, I have a pitch-side branding that you can utilize, but I also have players. Some of my players are actually ambassadors of certain brands, or they are influencers. They have this kind of following or whatever. You see what I mean? Like, just structure it in that sense. Obviously, your social media platforms, professionalize those spaces. Do not go out there to diss people. Do not go out there to chest stamp. Go out there to actually be a thought leader. Speak about the issues of the game. Speak about the advantages of being in the game. Speak about me as a sponsor. Tell the people exactly what I'm doing for you. You understand? Or at least let's discuss and see how you can also help me with my campaign. Now, Fadcats, you've come through. You've said, JP, come through for an interview.
Yeah.
Come and let's talk about these things. But when we're going to talk about these things, some of the things that you bring up are very interesting. They are also aligned to my campaigns. They are aligned to my brand.
Yeah.
So you will see that, again, that's you trying to be professional.
Yeah.
So even the clubs, how can you better add value to the sponsors, to the brands that you work with? Maybe you can help with their campaigns. Look at their messaging, understand exactly what's going on. So I guess reporting, utilizing your resources to push and add value to the sponsor. Of course, speaking professionally out there, present yourself with brand professionally, be accountable. Show me your books of records, like show me that this is how much we've spent, this is how much we have saved, this is how much we want, because this is how much you can earn from us. Show me the value that is actually coming from your own efforts. Yeah. So that's what I look forward to seeing as we grow the sport, to clubs being on that level, to understanding all these things. Create events that actually add value to me. You understand? Make sales.
Yeah.
You understand? But track also your own. Chadondo does this very well. And so does Kings Park.
Yeah,
Legends as well, by the way. They'll track the sales for you. They'll tell you that on this game day, this is what happened. So as the union gives you the report on attendance and all that stuff, as your sales team gives you sales records and all that stuff, you're also looking at clubs giving you some information that at least tallies. Grow a followership, grow a database of fans and a fan base. When you have a WhatsApp group and you blast a message, it will reach far because you have a very huge following on social media, on WhatsApp, whatever. Register these guys, have full profiles of them, and information, that biodata or whatever that we can work with, we can tap into. When we call upon you, you just give the data immediately. Say, boom, it's here. I have it. You're looking for guys who attend. I know Edwin Wawide. I know who, and they're from this club. What do they do? He's a lawyer. He's a what? He's a what? So for us, when we sit back in our boardrooms and say that rugby is big because it has a vast,
vast net of fans,
of fans, professionals and all that stuff. We're not just speaking hot air.
Yeah,
it's actually from a base. We know that this database of Warriors fans has these guys. This database of Corps guys has these guys. So these are some of the things that you can start with, that we are willing to look into and see, because they add value to us. They actually are insights that you need to then shape the game. Yeah.
I think that further echoes what Ken said in our previous podcast.
Yeah.
That we have a situation where clubs are always like me. I want this, I don't have this, I don't have this. But what are you doing to show that, okay, we're going to offer you this value? This is what we are bringing to the table. And I think he has really mentioned a lot of things that are interesting. And as a person with a bit of background in digital marketing in what I do, he has mentioned something very unique that we can really work with. And I've not seen any club particularly utilize it. Talking about how, as a brand, digitally or online, you can use your players as influencers for that brand. Not only the club talking about that brand, but have even the players themselves get into a conversation. And I think it just opens our eyes, or it just tasks us that, man, we need to find a way to add more value. Like, value might not always be that you're winning a trophy. By the way, some sponsors don't even care about your trophy.
Yeah.
But numbers, when you go back to justify why you're spending 9 billion in that boardroom with your other, let's say, stakeholders.
When you're being squeezed.
Yes, when you're being squeezed. When a marketing manager is being squeezed.
Yes.
He has to show the numbers that, man, we had this, even if these were the eyeballs that came through.
Yes.
If, like he said, if we have a big WhatsApp group, let's say, and a blast message is sent out, these are the number of people it reached. When it comes down to a product sale, this is the number of sales that were made on such things, and recording of that information. I don't know how many clubs can tell us that they do it, and yet these clubs actually have the following. So it is something that really, really should be paid attention to.
Yeah, I was revising some podcast episodes, and I think I said one of the podcasts that the KPI list of the union is maybe something that is trying to match you with a sponsor. It's trying to get you someone. If you have your books of accounts, you have your records of meetings, you have records of all your players. When you present such information, I think a sponsor will get interested and say that, you know what, these guys seem like a legit entity. They just need some financing.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw how sponsorship pushed Warriors all the way, nearly all the way. So it shows you that you need a back of a sponsor to help you. And funny you said about influencers. I remember back in the day when we used to watch rugby, it was 2007, 2008, 2009. Most of these guys who used to sponsor UTL, I don't know, many clubs, G4S, some of the club players used to work in these entities. I don't know if that's still a thing right now. Okay, I think now it's a little bit tighter now, considering markets and COVID and whatever. But it used to be a thing. I remember there are very many players used to work in UTL. The guys used to work in MTN, in Toyota. What else? In G4S as well.
Yeah, so, I think that goes back to what actually we were saying in our previous episode last week when we had Zeno over.
Yeah.
That we are all also, yes, I understand the need for money. But also we need to, as players or as people who are former players, we need to educate players that the sport where it is not going to give you, let's say, the 2 million you need a month.
Yeah.
On a consistent basis as a club, it is very, very hard for a Ugandan rugby club to give you that money. But how about you equip yourself with a skill that is going to help you leverage off sponsorships or networks where you can get a job, whether you can be servicing people you're known in that rugby community as the person who maybe does proper plumbing work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying, guys. How are we trying to also equip players in that manner that, okay, aside from just doing this and you want the club to give you money because you play rugby. Yes, rugby is a skill, but understanding that it's still an amateur sport, how do we position ourselves to also have those skills to be able to do some things? I mean, I am not afraid to say that before we got into many of the professions that we were with Warriors, at campus, our management would call us because one of the guys at the top era used to have a fiber and cable and data services thing, and companies would hire him and he'd call us to be able to carry these wires, let's pull here, let's connect here, and basic things, but you are earning not because you are qualified to even do, hell, we just learned on job, but because we were in that space and we were willing to want to benefit from where we were. I don't know if that culture is still there among his players today, but it's also something that we need to think about or to sensitize to players.
And some of these things have come into, they show you that you go a long way. So look at Chadondo, for example. It still happens. It has happened since. Rugby is a very interesting game. It's one of those games where you find that all the way from the MD to the potentially the repairs guy are all rugby players. Different levels, but they've all been together on the pitch. They share that camaraderie. They're still brothers. They're still brothers in the game. So we have that advantage that we have a vast, net of professionals with us. That network. That's the dynamic we need to be real with. First of all, the reality on ground is that we are not pro. We're not yet pro level. We are amateur, semi-pro, and some of the guys have managed to break through the mold. Guys like Philip Okorach, earning quite well for himself. He's doing quite well for himself in Paris, in France. But then you find the other guys who have also fled the nation, for lack of a better word.
They've jumped ship.
So you find that people are just trying to elevate themselves, and we can start from there. Don't present yourself as just a rugby player, but what else can you do? How else can you benefit from that network? Do not go and say, give me some money, buy me some beer. Let's look beyond those things. Let's say, okay, you know what? I'm going to drop my CV. Hook me up wherever you can. Put me somewhere. Today, I know Chadondo is one of the biggest places that does it. But we also know Kings Park is run by rugby players. The Bala, the Nathans, for example, Massa. Those guys are earning from the game indirectly because of that. And I think that's a very legit point from Ruben. That's something that we can look into.
And I was actually thinking about it, like when you look at different sports in Uganda, say for instance, football, which other game where rival clubs after the game can actually sit in one place and enjoy a beer and have conversations?
Not even basketball after game 7.
It's very, very painful. Actually, if you're a City Oil fan on that day, you had to leave early. It was not a funny sight. With football, I do not think Vipers fans can mix with other fans after a game. We have seen the unfortunate things that are being showed on social media about the violence in the game, which we never advocate for. But that just shows you how special rugby is. That man, Cobs and Heathens will play, and on the pitch they want to kill themselves. once that final whistle is blown, guys will go to the clubhouse or wherever, and they'll have a chance to just have a conversation,
On the over and out
regardless
special.
of which jersey you are
Over-and-out
wearing,
special.
where
Very
you're
key,
from,
yeah.
and over a Nile special, and then you can now even interact beyond that. And that's where the networking comes in. That's where all that stuff comes in. We have a rare opportunity that is, I don't think it is maximized more, which can further help in welfare of our players, welfare of our teams, and ideally help us also support the sponsors that that are already pushing the brand.
Yeah. Ruben and JP, you mentioned something, both in what you're saying about welfare of players. You said players expect like 2 million, and yet the market is not big enough. Now it comes to the touchy subject before we close, the unpaid allowances. We hear on the Twitter sphere, on the grapevine, we hear all these stories that, man, we went here, we were not paid, we're still to chavanja, things like that. And it, I must say, it puts someone who's injecting money in bad light, and it makes it, as you said earlier, it makes it look like you guys don't give money or you're lying. So
Yeah.
as Nile special,
Yeah.
tell us, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, player allowance is a very sticky one, and again, I like to leave it to the mandate of the union to handle such situations. However, I know that negotiations or discussions have happened in such a way that we will have payment cycles that favor the activities of the union. Some of these things had not been streamlined before and are being streamlined as we speak. So that money comes on a timely basis. But again, even if it does, how it's being used is something that I think we need to first consider. How is it being spread across? How is it being used to manage the situation? So you'll find that we've had situations where some things have been prioritized over others, and you cannot, as a sponsor, now go to the union and say, "How come you've prioritized this over that?" You understand? They know how they operate in their affairs and all that stuff. At least they've given it to us that this is how things flow in our lives, and this is how we make sure some of these problems don't happen. Also, when it comes down to how that accountability and all that stuff, we need to be able to, I think, as a sponsor, demand more of that from the union, and vice versa. So that is something that we are aware of and is being actioned as we speak. So that regular reporting, that tracking of spend, that transparency needs to be also pushed out to the public. How we do that is something that we will need to deliberate on, and we see how we can, present this information back to the public, because the public is the one that's asking. How come we see it's 9.8 billion? We expected it to be there to help, to do whatever, but we are not seeing results. Now, for me, before we even look at the results that the money is going to bring, what have we asked? Again, I ask of ourselves, or as the players, as the community, as whatever. Some of these games that have even, not even a quarter of your money are performing.
Yeah.
Not even a quarter. They're still crying about player allowances as well. Netball, for example.
Yeah.
They're still crying for money from the government.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a Uganda situation.
Yeah.
But them as an outfit have decided to move past it.
Yeah.
And grow and actually achieve. They have been playing top tier netball or top tier countries for a very long time. They are now one of our biggest exports in sports. How did they get there? Maybe that's something that we need to look at. Has it been as a result of money?
Yeah.
Or has it been in spite of the challenges of money? You understand what I mean? So I think we need to get faster to that conversation before we even, go into all these other things. But yes, I hope I've answered your question.
I think we need to
terms of what we're doing.
Imagine saying benchmark complaints of player allowances across different unions and see how they handle theirs as opposed to ours.
That's also good. That's also good.
It's something that it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's something that can be resolved.
Yeah.
I think it's a management issue, how you can manage aspects of what prioritization is given to money that is received, and maybe paying off, be a Lannister, pay your debts as soon as possible, as and when they arise, so that you do not have situations like this that tend to make JP look bad.
Yeah, but in any situation, even us in our professional lives,
Yeah.
there will always be a delay somewhere
Yeah.
here and there. But how is management trying to handle people management? How are you having a conversation with these boys, manage their expectations? How are you also keeping your promises, like you said? That, okay, if you say that there's a challenge here, it's coming mid-month, can it be mid-month at least? Can something happen?
Yeah.
That is something that is also important. We need to be able to make sure that the players are happy, because these players are putting their bodies on the line regardless. And
Literally.
whether there is a delay and whether it is something that could have been avoided or something that's out of their control, the players deserve their money because they work for it. But how are you managing them? Sometimes the players feel shunned, and they're actually the ones that start this fight just because most of them are too scared to lose the opportunities they have. So they go in the grapevine and whisper, and then the fans amplify it.
Amplify the noise.
Yes,
Yeah.
but so it goes back to how are you making the players happy? How are you appeasing these players? And then if there is a challenge, how are you being forthcoming and open about your communication?
Yeah.
And then when you promise them a certain date, not just switch off your phone, but meet your what you've said. If there's another challenge, then you communicate. But then also not making the challenges continuous. Like, if we are blessed with an opportunity where we can have some money from some sponsors, can we please be able to prioritize the right things, keeping major things major? Yeah, that's what I think, really.
We may have a podcast on player allowances, but we have to ask JB for permission so it doesn't make him look bad. But now, following that discussion, we have to discuss one of the Nile special sponsored events, Uganda Cup. We have some fixtures over the weekend and plenty of action both in the women's and men's court of the game. So our fans, watch out for these games. 2 p.m. Saturday, we have Rams versus Warriors at Makerere. We have Waluku Barbarians taking on Rhinos in Ginger at 4 p.m. Cobs will take the long trip to Mbarara, take on the Titans. You know that clip of Joseph Oyeti supposed to score a try and then some.
Yes, I was actually there for that one. I was on commentary duty.
We hope
that was funny.
That will not happen to some Cobs players. We have Chambogo taking on the Stanbic Black Pirates. That's at Chambogo. We'll have Mongas, a Sean Basika less Mongas taking on Mbale Elephants in Mbale. We'll have Chadondo Action. We will have Stallions taking on Hippos. Hippos promised to send a battalion of fans, so we'll wait to see. 4 p.m. at Makerere, there's a double header. The earlier game is Rams Warriors. Then you'll have Impis Buffaloes, and then closing it out at Legends, we'll have Box and Heathens taking on each other. Women's games will have Kabale Bag Princesses taking on Thunderbirds in Kabale Stadium. We'll have Avengers taking on Mbale Eagles in Entebbe. Double header in Lira. Lira Strikers versus the Iwis of Rams, I think, and then Lira Matrix versus Gulu Sprinters. So plenty of action this weekend. Don't miss out. Drink Nile special. And keep it Uganda Cup till the next tournament. Parting shots from our sponsor here.
Okay, cool. I mean,
how
thank
far
you.
can the game grow?
Thank you for having me. And I think really the game can grow as far as we try, as far as we can push. It's beyond the horizon. Really, it's on there. It's on its way.
Yeah,
I believe rugby has come so far, and will go even further. Maybe the one thing I want to talk about is the Cranes Cabo.
okay.
Yeah, I want to remind the public out there that during this World Cup campaign, we want you to participate by drinking Now Special or buying someone else a Now Special, a friend or two, because for every 500 ml Now Special that you buy, 50 shillings goes to the Cabo to see the Uganda Cranes go through. Whether or not this is something that can be extended to rugby is another thing. But once you drink Now Special, you're supporting rugby, you're supporting football, you're supporting Uganda as a whole. Yeah.
The Fat Cats have done their part. We have
Correct.
got plenty of nines. So
100.
we have done our part. Ruben, close this one out.
Yeah, first and foremost, it's great to see that Uganda Cup is back with the ladies also. Usually it used to be a very men-centered competition, but now it's great to see that we have ladies, especially from up country, and that's great. Lots for people to watch this weekend. Rugby is back, and lots for us to discuss with the weeks to come. But we always appreciate people that that keep it Fat Cats Podcast. As always, you can always engage with us on our various social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we are also on TikTok now. We are trying to be cool as well. Um, for all those that want to listen to the podcasts, previous and current, they are there on our audio platforms: Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Podvine, wherever you want to listen to your content from, we are there. And then for those that want to watch, we're on YouTube. Just make sure you subscribe. Always leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. But we always appreciate you. And we are here at the Fred and Winnie B&B, and we're going to just continue taking our nail specials. And thanks for being with us. Cheers.
Cheers.